I recently had a great talk with my friend Veeda Bybee, and we discussed her latest book, which is her first cookbook, actually. It's called A Few of My Favorite Things. We talked about some of these recipes and what influenced her to write this, which is not only a recipe book, but a love letter to musicals. A Few of My Favorite Things is out now, and I'll have a link in the description of where you can order it from local booksellers. I hope you enjoy the interview. So, when you were on your mission, when were you in Hilo?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I served a mission for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in
Uh-huh.
2001. And so I was in Hilo probably, gosh, I don't know, 2000-ish. We'll
Okay.
at that point, yeah.
Like in the beginning of the year.
Were you there at the same time as me? Are you trying to say that?
Uh-huh. So I lived in
Yes.
Hilo. So like from April until April, May, June, July, August. So like until August.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved to Kona.
Okay.
And then we were in Kona for 4 months. And then we moved home. My first husband, so he just needed to build his commercial flight time. And there was a flight school slash place that did tours of the volcano. So he did that for 4 months each on the Hilo side and the Kona side.
Okay. I would have overlapped with you probably in August because I was there like during the holidays and I was there for about 6 months. So I might have been,
Wow.
yes, JV.
I
What
knew,
is
that's so great. So now you grew up in Las Vegas, correct?
my husband grew up in Las Vegas. I am a military kid, so I grew up like around the world, everywhere.
Okay. All right.
Until high school in Northern Virginia. So I would claim that for a while, but I haven't been on the East Coast like for so many years now. It's barely part of my identity. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a
I
military
say
kid.
claim it. I say claim it. Whatever you want to claim.
Are
Did
you
you?
military too? I forget. No.
No. I
Okay.
have moved a lot, but
Okay.
not military. So did moving around a lot influence your cookbook that we're going to be talking about today? A few of my favorite things.
Well, the thing about the title is obviously it's, inspiration from the Sound of Music song, but the recipes really are some of my favorite recipes too. So like it goes both ways, where they're just some of my most favorite recipes from like my family's life, but ones I've learned like from my in-laws too, and just I don't know. I have lived everywhere, but I lived in a lot of countries growing up. So I do have like a little bit of a global perspective of just like how I
Yeah.
love food, and I love how it really can just get you a better understanding of a place too.
Hmm.
Uh, and living in Hawaii, I didn't actually understand what a fusion of a place it is, and all the
Uh-huh.
Asian influences, and so that was really fun for me to have like 18 months there and to just I ate more rice there than I probably did like anywhere anywhere else. So.
Yeah. All right. So what are some of the countries you've lived in?
We lived in South Korea for some of my middle school years. I
Okay.
also spent some time in West Germany before the wall came down. So we were there
Okay.
like through a grade. I remember going over to East Germany and like with my passport and like kind of crossing the border that way. So that was
Was
like
that scary?
it was scary. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
told to not like open up because when we take the train over, we like don't open up the windows, and sometimes they'd have like the East German guards come and check your passports, and it was I was a kid, so I didn't feel like I felt like my parents or they could protect us, but it was there
Sure.
were scary moments of that.
Yeah.
Um, but I loved because we lived in Germany, and I kind of like I'm guessing it was like 6 through 9 or whatever. I love like fairy tales and castles,
Yeah.
uh, that flair.
Yeah.
Um, and then while I was in college, my family moved to Okinawa, Japan, and so I left for my mission there actually.
Oh my gosh.
So they spent time in Japan, and then they were also in the Philippines. And so after I graduated from college, I spent maybe like 6 months. Like I did an internship for a magazine in Manila, and so I spent some time there too. So that was really fun.
Wow. And then you said you lived in London too.
Oh yes. So my husband, when we were like when he was still in graduate school, he had an externship there. So we were there like for about a couple of months. And that was really awesome, but really hard too to have like two little kids and do it.
Yeah.
But I felt it was really good though, because I felt like I was like being brave, at the same time
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Well, did you get to see the rest of England or do you just sort of stay?
We mostly stayed in London. But we did go over to so there is a race called the Cooper Hills Cheese Rolling Wake. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of it and seen videos, I guess, but yeah.
And that was like such an adventurous time for me because so my mom, there's like stories I grew up with her when, for instance, she took all of us, there's only three of us at the time. She flew with three of us to Germany and we were moving there all by ourselves because
Wow. Yeah.
I think about that. I think, man, she was so adventurous, and she was known to take my sisters. Like when they lived in Japan, they went to Australia, and they just they just were so like that. And there, and she passed away right before my first daughter was born. And so I kind of felt like I just wanted to be like her, but I was like I wasn't. At the time, I felt like I was just nervous about a lot of things, So we were in England. I planned this trip to go to Cooper's Hill, which is like you have to take the tube to, like a train station there. And so I figured out the routes, to take the train, to take the bus, and we just went on this like little adventure that I kind of planned out, and it was really like it was a moment for me because we went to the cheese race, which is like in Gloucestershire, which is like a couple hours away, and it's an adventure. Like it wasn't like it's like this huge. I mean, it is a tourist thing, but it's not like it's like here's how you do that. I just looked it up all on my own.
Right.
I booked the hotel.
Yeah.
And then we like took the kids in the stroller and we like had our luggage on the bottom. We walked up like the hill. It's like a, the cheese rolling race. They will, throw this wheel of cheese down this hill, but it's like more like a mountain. I don't know. It's just like the I've ever seen. And thousands of people come to gather and see it. And my husband Brendan and I are like May, our oldest at the time. She's only 2 and with a baby. But we just did this trek, and it was like I didn't roll down the hill myself, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was like I conquered something just like as a mom and doing that. Yeah. So I actually have a middle grade coming out in this fall. It's about a girl who actually goes to that cheese rolling race and she rolls in it for her brother. So
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for that book too.
So is that one done? Or it's in edits right now?
Yeah, so that book, I worked on that middle grade novel for years, and I can't believe how much I've written that book. And so that was one I never thought would see like the light of day ever. It's coming out this fall, and so I just saw they're doing the cover sketch for that right now. Yeah, so she goes to Cooper's Hill on behalf of her brother, but she uses her influences from Chinese mythology of the 8 invincible brothers to check off this checklist to give her kind of courage to do this. And I'm really excited for the project. So
that's exciting.
You never know like what your life experience or, what things will end up or, help you with.
Yeah, I love that. Veeda has all sorts of, she's had several books published. Is this your first cookbook though?
Yeah.
Right. Explain your passion for food and how you're connected to it and what it means to you and why you wrote a cookbook in the first place. Tell me.
Well, what I love about you, Jamie, is you are so talented. Like your pictures are gorgeous. And I know your recipes, like you're such a good cook too. So I'm just even flattered. I'm just so honored you wanted to, cook these things and make them. And Matt messaged me and said that you made the local moco and I brought him back to Hawaii, which I love. You guys have this Hawaiian connection too.
Yeah.
And, like when he said that I brought him back, that was like the greatest honor because like, it was kind of like, in Ratatouille where, they make their ratatouille and brings them back to France. Like that's like one of the biggest things like that, how food can connect you to a time and a place.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Matt always jokes that when he has memories of childhood, he remembers what he ate that day. Like he remembers where they went and what they ate. And that's
Before I wanted to do children's book writing, I had a food blog for a couple of years. And that was never very big though. But I did I went to a food conference, I learned how to do food writing. And it was good, but it was so much work. And I don't know. And it was just like this thing where I was having less and less joy doing it. So I gave it up. And it was one of those things where I remember I would feel a lot of like shame in a way where I'd be kind of like, why did I spend so much money and time doing a food blog when like nothing came to it? And like, I don't know why I can do that, but I did that. I was just thinking that was a waste of time, but it's a good life lesson where I think, I don't think anything that we do, whether or not we just don't know where things are going to end up. And so when this project came about, I was talking with my publisher and they were interested in working with me. and they were like, if you have, they really like to use food, and so they were just thinking like just in novels to have a recipe, and they asked me like, oh, if you have like a recipe to put that any of your books, we'd love to publish something like that, like a recipe with a story. And I said, oh, I actually do love food. I just spent the last year of the pandemic, we had a family musical night, family musical Fridays, and where I cook a recipe from a musical and we watch it, and so like I can totally do that. And then they were actually really interested in that idea for a cook. My agent was on the phone too, and on the call, and she's really good at like recognizing that, like, oh, that's a potential project.
Yeah.
So we were, and of course, like I said, yes, even though at this point in time, I did not picture myself someone who's going to be writing a cookbook. But you just say yes to things and you do it, but like at the same time, it wasn't something like totally out of the blue, because I do have a background somewhat in food. I spent time taking food writing classes. So I mentioned my mom, and when right before she passed, she told me like, I really want you to write down all my recipes. Like, that's really important for you to have that for you and your family. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And I called her and I said, hey mom, what's your recipe for the like the coconut rice ball salad, and stuff. And she did not really know how to tell me the recipe, so it was just kind of like, you make them like this big, you fry them for this long, but so like so my sisters and I, for a good little bit, we tried recreating the recipes, and we did. I wrote them, I'd write them down. I still have yet to actually compile them in a cookbook though. Like I haven't done that yet, but that's what got it started. We were doing this together with my sisters to kind of, just keep that memory of her too, and just like honor that of hers. But I do feel kind of, but I still have yet to actually compile those recipes together, because I got kind of burned out. So
but I totally understand that burnout, because when I had the blog, then that was my job. Like, I got hired by a company that had me blog for them, and so it was like cooking all the time. And I found that the burnout for me, probably the biggest component of the burnout was probably more the social media aspect of it, where it's like you're checking the likes, or how come this one didn't go viral and this one did. And I did my blog like at the early days of Facebook. So it was like 2008 to 2013. And it was like, I think the burnout came from the comparison, probably more than anything else. What did you feel like the burnout was?
I want to say it's similar, because like I would go to these food conferences and they'd be like, this is how you monetize. And I just felt like that whole making it a business aspect felt very overwhelming to me. I just didn't want to do that. Like, so, but I was also much younger then. And I think I'm in a different place in my life where I'm not so acceptable. Like, I'm more confident in who I am. Like maybe I wasn't as much 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Where I had to be like that person, now I'm like, I'm in my 40s now, so I feel like it's just different. I feel differently about my place. So
and I think the advantage that I had when I started, honestly, I didn't even know. Like, I literally did not know that there were food blogs. Like, I heard that these ladies were working from home, writing a blog and making money, and I was like, oh, I could do that. And I like food. I like food photography. Maybe I could try to make money doing that. And like, literally, I did not follow a single food blog. So I had that beginner's mindset completely. So it was like the burnout didn't come until later, when I was like comparing and seeing like, oh gosh, they're like so much better. Just backing up, so what branch of the military was your dad in?
In the Army.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to circle back to that. And like, those are all really exciting places. A lot of people grow up in the military, like Matt did, but they didn't get to live any place really cool, like where you got to go. So what did your dad do? What was his job in the military?
In the intelligence. So I'm not really quite sure, but like it was,
So that's why you got to go to cool places.
I was like, we lived in South Korea, but I also lived like on a military base. So it wasn't like I'm like fully immersed in that. Although for 6 months we did live off base, and that was more like living, obviously. Like living, so.
And that was in South Korea. They lived off base.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool. How much did you guys experiment with different foods in the areas that you went and lived in?
Oh, well, we definitely like I love Korean food. My daughter, she's 11 and she is obsessed with K-pop and K-dramas and
Or
it has nothing to do with like my influence, but I love that fact that that's popular for her. We definitely would eat off base, because it's just like
yeah.
regular things. But also my mom was a really good cook too. And so she would cook a lot of food from her, the food that she grew up with as well.
Where did your mom grow up? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so she grew up in Laos, which is
Okay.
a country right above Thailand, and my grandparents are Thai, my grandma's Thai, and then my grandfather's Chinese. But
Okay.
she grew up with a very Chinese influence type of food. I mean, she grew up in Laos too, so that Southeast Asian Chinese, that's definitely a huge part of my culture and
Sure.
heritage.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my kids the other day. She was very well known growing up for making her egg rolls. Okay.
Hmm.
And so years ago when I was trying to make the recipe book, I would go to and I knew she had a Thai influence. So I was looking for like these egg rolls she had growing up, but they were never the same in the restaurants. Like,
Yeah.
or sorry. I'd order egg rolls like in Chinese restaurants, and like they're always very different. Like, why are these so different? Like, the wrappers were thicker, and the filling was like mushrooms. My mom would use like cabbage and like like the rice
Glass
noodles,
noodle. I love those.
and it's because
Yeah.
she called them egg rolls when they were. But in Thailand, they're like now the language I think has developed more. But like 15, 20 years ago, it was like I think. They're actually like Thai spring rolls, but in my mind, I always thought they were like a Chinese egg. I thought they were egg rolls. Like, so whenever I
Yeah.
ordered them, I was at a Chinese restaurant. So it took me a long time to figure like, oh, the egg rolls she's referring to are Thai spring rolls, but she just called them egg rolls. So it's just like having to like be a sleuth and figure that out. Cause when I started that project, that was like, I mean, it was like 20 years ago and there
Yeah.
was not like the food blogs out now. And so there wasn't a lot of Lao food out there online. And, no, there definitely is. So it's easier to like say, oh, this is what she was talking about. That was kind of a search to figure out, what is she referring to. So, and so my daughter went out to, she was out with a family and they got some Thai food. They brought it in and she ordered spring rolls
Uh-huh.
and she was like, Mom, these spring rolls, so they were at a Thai restaurant too. And she's like, they had vegetables in them that were fresh and the wrapper was like, it wasn't fried. And so I'm guessing what happened is they probably ordered like, in Vietnamese food, they have like this rice wrapper and it's like
Mhm.
they call it a summer roll, but
Right.
it's also been called a spring roll. And so it has like the
Yeah.
lettuce and the carrots and it's wrapped in a rice paper. And so it's like sometimes like those words are just like very interchangeable. And so just,
Yeah.
you know,
If in Germany there's not a word for vanilla Kipferl in English, so we'll just call them cookies. I can see why that would happen a lot.
I've been lucky to pretty much live near a Chinatown or an Asian market all the time. And so, I will
Yeah.
just stock up on spring roll wrappers because they are different than the stuff, you buy at a regular grocery store. But even in my local Smiths now, like, and
Mhm.
like I'm not super close to Chinatown, but I mean, there's one in Las Vegas. It's like 30 minutes away from where I live. But even in my regular grocery store, I noticed they have like, they carry actually the spring roll wrappers that I will use. And so I just feel like, man, we are living in such a neat time
I
where
know.
like things are so more well known and available. So
Mhm.
I will still, of course, go to Chinatown to get stuff. But like, if I need to go, I can just go to my local grocery store. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I know. I found it's Moshiko. Is that the name of the rice?
Flour, yeah.
Yeah. So I found that at Safeway. I wrote in the brand name and I said, I wrote in near me, like when you do the
Yeah.
Google search, it told
Oh
me
my
which
gosh.
aisle it was in and like 3 grocery stores within a 5-mile radius.
That's cool to know because they don't have that. So I will have to go to Chinatown for that rice flour. But that's cool
Oh.
that yours has that.
Yeah. Well,
Ah.
no, Safeway was, when in Hawaii, I don't know if you found this. I mean, you guys were missionaries, so it's a little bit different maybe, but yeah, in Safeway, that's where you had to go for everything. Cause like you would join the club and they give you like the
Everyone is-
price. So like milk wasn't $8 a gallon. You could get it for $3. I would think that flour would be a very popular item in Hawaii. And so it might just be one of those things that they carry.
Well, and why I'm sure it's like every place. So yeah.
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 So now the cookbook that you're writing of your mom's recipes, and how many recipes did you go, screw it, I'm putting it in here because
I only did I only did like two. I did the congee, the rice soup, and the wontons.
okay.
Yeah, so I wrote in the introduction of the cookbook, I don't have that many Asian recipes because I just didn't feel very inspired for that many Asian musicals. You know, like the ones that are out just they're not my favorite. We didn't really watch them. I do have some though, you know, like there's one in there, but I don't know, hopefully, I know. It's one of the things like I do need to get like so, you know, I did write things down and that's one of the reasons I started the blog. I was kind of like
Right.
blogging those recipes.
Yeah.
But when I had that burnout, I just kind of like took it all down. So I do
Yeah.
have things, but it's not compiled in a cookbook. But so sometimes I feel like it's really good to have a deadline, or someone's
Mhm.
like, "Hey, you know, you have to have this in." So then you'll you'll do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to like do this cookbook for my favorite things. So I actually have a, a compilation of all those recipes that are meaningful to like our family.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, one of the things like one of my life goals, like I actually do need to fulfill that and make that cookbook. So my
Yeah,
mom's
you
recipe.
will. When it's inspiring you, when the timing's right, it'll probably
Yeah.
all just kind of come together.
I have a
Um,
big list, and I know all the things that we've done, but I just haven't actually gone through and because writing takes time, and writing recipes takes time, and to make them with like the header and everything else too. And so just I haven't put that effort in.
yeah. So, all right. So, what was your deadline? Like, I'm curious. Now I'm like, okay, so tell me all the nitty gritty of your book. Well, I'll just come from my perspective. So, when I pitched my cookbook, I had it a certain way with like a certain number of recipes, but like my editor wanted 5 recipes in every chapter rather than like 3 in some and 8 in others, which I was like, whatever. And then in other things, they were, some of the things, because the whole book was over a year, I had to shoot things out of sequence. It was a little bit like shooting a movie, right? Where, I mean, it really wasn't snowing outside when the kids look like when they're in their snow clothes and they're drinking hot chocolate. It was actually June and they were hot and their cheeks are red because they're actually hot. So, like, did you really? I guess I'm like, this is like a confessional. So, like,
Yeah.
were these all things that you did throughout that year where you were watching the musicals and doing the night, like the little movie nights together with the food? Or did writing it force you to kind of come up with extra recipes, I guess? Or just tell me what you want to tell me.
Yeah. Well, so when I made that goal to have the movie nights every week for a
Mhm.
year, we actually really did do that. So every week for like
That's amazing.
did it. And some of them, I mean, towards the end, some of them were pretty like, here's some popcorn. It was like, it
Yeah.
wasn't like, it was, depending on what it was. Like we spent a whole month watching High School Musical, which I didn't put in the cookbook, but like I
Uh-huh.
didn't really understand the amazingness of High School Musical till this project. Cause like High School Musical 2, the musical, the series was
Uh-huh.
popular. It was so fun to watch with the family.
Yeah.
I didn't actually include that in the cookbook.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but just some of the things just didn't make it in. Again,
Yeah.
so we also watched we watched The Music Man, for instance, but I didn't. It wasn't like my kids are like, Mom, they really liked it, and it was kind of like it was okay for me. So some of
Yeah.
them, some of the musicals we watch, I actually didn't put in. So it's not just like strictly based on that whole year. A
Okay.
lot of it is our influence inspired, but it's just
Mhm.
compilation of different musicals that we watched. It started out with me actually not liking musical theater for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like I grew up liking it and loving it a lot. I've seen so many plays with friends that would like I went to like universities in Virginia for the summer. The Kennedy Center was close by. I saw like Phantom of the Opera there and Beauty and the Beast. I've seen like really amazing productions. But as like I got older and I had kids, like I just kind of got really hard in my heart about musicals because I didn't see very many Asian representation in there, and I just kind of like these are not
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Plus I just went through this phase where I just didn't like them, and I realized like because of that, my children also they just weren't exposed to musical theater.
Right.
And so they don't know anything about Singing in the Rain or like even Disney cartoons. Like we went through a whole thing where they just didn't. None of them have ever seen some of the classics that like I grew up with. But during the pandemic, when Hamilton like was on, they released it and so we were doing nothing. Like watching that film, like just it really was so transformative for me because I've been familiar with that music for years beforehand because my daughter was so obsessed and other people I knew were so obsessed. So I knew the music. I didn't really know the play though because like I haven't seen it before. having it all put together on like film on TV was like it was just really empowering. And so I watched that, and then this is of course during shutdown times, like trying to think of what we could do. So making that goal to watch a musical, like saying like, okay, I don't know, just being open to something new again. Like, okay, I
Mhm.
think Hamilton. Like, I just remembered how much I loved it, so I think we're gonna try this. And
Yeah.
it was kind of amazing to see us go from like, musicals are cheesy, musicals are boring, to like sitting down and watching like how many hours of Fiddler on the Roof. Like it was incredible. And I cherish those times and remembering. Like we also watched American in Paris, which is not in the book, but like there is a 20-minute dance scene for no reason at all. It has nothing to do with the movie. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but it's so fun to watch that too. I would spend time looking at recipes from those time period. Has recipes obviously from the musicals we watched, but it is influenced from other things that I've had too. So
Yeah. I love that you brought up Song of the Sea. I love that movie. That movie was almost transformative for me. Not maybe not quite the same impact, but like I studied art in college, and like I had so many professors dump on what I did. And maybe only just one that dumped on what I did. And then I did not want to draw or paint or do anything for years. And then I saw Song of the Sea, and it was like, I don't know, it was like something unlocked. It was just magical, just seeing like the music and the artwork and the style. And anyway, so it's just so happy that you put that one in there. It's a favorite. In the introduction, you talk about how the musicals that you had to watch had to have diversity in them. So what are some of the ones, I mean, obviously Hamilton, but were there any others that you were like, oh, this is so good that you included in the book?
this one, it's not diverse in the sense, but I've never seen Bugsy Malone, but my husband grew up with that,
Okay.
and we watched that one, and like that would blew me away because there's just these kids. Have you seen it before, Jamie?
No, I haven't.
So there are these child actors, and they are acting out mobsters in, is it Chicago or New York? I'm blanking right now, but it's just so cute, kind of quirky, and they use whipped cream for ammunition instead of like bullets and
Oh,
stuff. So like shooting like whipped cream guns and pies, and that was just a really really fun. That's probably one of my favorites because I think it was one of my favorites because I just didn't know about it, so that was kind of a fun one to do. I really liked watching Grease live with my family. So they've actually
okay.
still seen the original Grease because
Okay.
again, I just didn't expose it to them growing up.
Yeah.
And so for diversity, I wanted to find casts that were, if they were not the original, play wasn't that way, but I've seen that these more modern adaptations are. So we watched. So I found on Grease Live, like I think like one television station had it, and that was really fun to see. And I know it's kind of like it's not the best comparison because in my mind I have like the original in my head, but it was
Mhm.
also fun to see like this newer version too. That was really fun.
Yeah.
So in Greece, like but both my husband and I, we were both in our high school productions of Greece. Like I was just a choir because I just the chorus because I'm not very talented, but he was Eugene. So and
Oh, wow.
I did art direction for that, and so like Grease is, I loved Grease growing up.
What?
I love that you bring up Song on the Sea though, because that like the art is so gorgeous, and I love that you have that creative background. And I forgot that about you too. And I don't know, I was trying to find like what makes a musical a musical. And I don't know if I actually really found anything, but I just used my own rule, and so I said if it has
Yeah.
two musical numbers and a dance number, then it's considered a musical.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
that's what I used. Yeah.
So I'll just show that we made the Loco Moco last night.
Huh?
It was so good. I'm excited for the Bubble and Squeak. I've never made
Oh
that.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love, I'm obsessed with England.
As a so yes, that
Yeah.
was fun. Those recipes from there. I loved like Encanto. My
Oh,
youngest,
yeah.
her favorite movie is The Book of Life, and so we know the music and words that like we could probably recite it by heart. Um, so did I include The Book of Life in there? I probably did. So like
I don't know what that one is. What's the Book of
oh,
Life?
it's a cartoon.
Okay.
It's about Day of the Dead, and it's really good.
Okay. Yeah, Turning Red, we watched, I think
Yeah.
we watched that during during the pandemic. Oh, Hawaiian Mac Salad, Lilo and Stitch. There a musical number in Lilo and Stitch?
Yes, they
Oh,
say
yes. Wait. Yeah, the Hawaiian roller coaster. Because it's King Kamehameha school it's
oh,
their choir that sings those songs. And it just,
oh,
I
I
don't,
didn't realize that. Oh, okay.
yeah. And like every time I hear them, those kids, they just sing with such heart and it's just so beautiful. And then if you watch the special features, you can see this little choir of children singing and it's like, and they're so happy and it's just, I don't know, it really is special because whenever I hear those songs, I'm like, oh.
I love the music in Hawaii, and like music is such an important part of their culture, and it influenced me too. Somebody asked me once, like, well, why musicals? But what makes musicals different than just like even regular family watching? And I feel like music, you participate at a different level than you do when you're like watching a movie. So like, for instance, you may not sing along as you watch the musical, but that song will be in your head afterwards. And you'll hear it in the car and you'll play and you'll sing along then. And I feel like it gives you an opportunity to participate in that experience outside of just like watching a scene, because like I don't think you're gonna act out a scene, but you're gonna sing Hawaiian Roller Coaster, which is now in my head now. So,
Yeah,
like
I know.
it's like so fast. Like music has that opportunity, like food, like it can transport you to a moment and to like a happy place, or a sad place, but really but really just faster than I think like, a paragraph or a page can even do as you're reading a book. But
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In my soul, the more we can connect things with food, the better. Like,
oh,
should always be treats. There should always be some kind of food connection. And I love the idea of like tying in the food with the movie and having those really meaningful nights. But mostly I think that the fact that you really did it for the whole year is what impresses me the most. That's the kind of thing I would have been like, yes, we're going to do this. And we would have gotten to like 1 month in, maybe. Were there any that you had to add to kind of bulk up the cookbook, or were they really the ones that you did for the year?
so I didn't start posting on Instagram that we were doing this till maybe I was a few weeks in. Because same thing, because I start things all the time like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, But after 3, it stuck. So okay, I'm going to do this. And it kept me accountable. And it was really nice because I had friends or just people like they would want to know, like, well, what are you cooking and following along, that kind of thing. And that was kind of fun just to kind of share because like then, I just wasn't socializing very much. And so it was fun to share these things we were doing. And I also didn't want to make them like super time, like some of them were time intensive, it was a lot to do, but like I was home all day. If you're doing this with your family, you don't have to necessarily make a huge thing. Just even like making one thing, would be really fun. There are like Into the Woods we didn't watch in the over that
During
year.
that year? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I didn't even really write about it much, but I did add it in to like one of the corn recipes because I talk about corn and Into the Woods, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to think, what other ones could you put in that would work? Like if I had good foresight, I would have done Wicked,
Oh, yeah.
But there was no ability to watch Wicked during that time.
Right.
But I do have like Witch Fingers for like Hocus Pocus that we watched and things. So you could still use that for a Wicked movie night.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. In your days as a food blogger, life can get a little hectic when you're cooking for something like to photograph and everything. So there was this question on a David Chang show where they asked chefs, like, what kind of food? Okay. Sometimes when you have a cooking career, you end up making the food for your job. It doesn't always get to your family. Seems like you did a really good job cooking for your family, but like, was there ever a time when you were like making the recipes for this book where you were like, like what's the worst thing you've had to give to your family and pass it off as dinner?
So I was doing some French food, and this is not a dinner thing, but I made these like, I don't know why, but I don't know why there was French, but I made like these they were like, it was like a cookie, but it was like they had seaweed in it too. And I thought, was it the French one or was it a different one? I don't know, but they were not good, It was just kind of funny because I was experimenting, and they're obviously not in the cookbook either. But it was just kind of funny thing where like, oh, I saw this, I want to try this variation, and they were just, and we love seaweed, like we love the nori and that kind of stuff. But in a cookie form, it was not good. So that did not. No, that was kind of a funny one there too.
Yeah, that one didn't make it.
It's hard for me right now to want. It's like I love to cook, but when you do it as a job, it is harder because you're like, oh, I don't want to have to cook, And so on the days like I'm baking and stuff, it's like, well, I hope you like to have here's some cake for dinner. That kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about like when I was doing all the photography, I'd have to make the recipes and do that so we could cook and then everybody would eat them. But yes, when I'm spending so much time like trying to take the photo of like, if it's a sweet thing, then that's dinner will not be as thoughtful that day. And cooking, so like social media is hard because I know like one of my goals is to do more reels. Like I should do myself doing some of these recipes, but just the thought of like, oh, then it becomes like a work. So then it's, so I just have to take that out of my mind. It's like, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. Just record it, put it up there, whatever, it's just so you can have an example. So I just need to kind of get over that. 'Cause that's my goal. Like I need to do like a couple of videos of that, but I have yet to do that yet. So you did a really good one recently about your shortbread.
Oh, thanks.
Gosh. What were you doing that I didn't realize was a good tip? I forgot what it was. Did you pre-cut it? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
It was such a good idea.
Oh,
Like,
thanks.
I'm so glad you shared that. Like I would have never, I like making shortbread, but I'd never thought about pre-cutting it before. And I don't know, it was cool.
Oh, well, thanks. The way I learned it, they've always said to do it that way. So it was like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't know that people didn't know that. And that video, I shot that and it literally took me 2 weeks to go. It's so much work. I don't blame you. It's like, but now I'm trying to force myself to do it more. It's like I'm requiring of myself to slow down and like enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Like, instead of, oh, I have to do this. Well, if I think I have to do it, then that's not going to work. So I'm like, well, am I doing it or am I not doing it? So I'm trying to force myself to be in the right frame of mind while I'm doing it so that it's not so bad. But
one thing I appreciate, I'm trying to learn for like some of the, like, some of the younger generations, like they will just kind of record themselves without makeup or whatever. It's not perfect. And I'm not of that mindset, because I didn't grow up always with the camera around. So I like try to forget, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, like if it was in the cookbook, some of them are not perfect at all. But at that point, I just had to turn something in, okay, I can't reshoot this anymore. I just have to turn this in and just make with it with it. So I learned a lot of lessons from that too. Like, there's really nothing as perfection or final. You just gotta turn it in. So I learned about that in social media. I think, okay, this video that I'm like, oh, I need to go ahead and do. Just do it, Veeda. Like, I don't have, doesn't have to be, however, just turn it in and do it. And I think some of these like influencers, like I think it's pretty awesome. They're just like, hey, I'm just gonna film it, whatever, and like, we don't need to see this perfect curated thing,
Yeah,
so.
it's true. Like when you're able to do it with the right feeling, like the right joy, I guess, it translates and it doesn't matter what exactly it looks like. I did film myself making these.
Oh, okay.
So that will be on the video.
I'm excited.
Can we talk about these for just a minute and then we'll wrap up?
Butter mochi. What did I call it?
Butter mochi. Okay. High tide coconut butter mochi.
Okay.
Like, is this a recipe you've had for a while or like?
Yes, I lived in Hawaii, and that's where I first learned the different variations of making butter mochi. And that teaching the recipe, gosh, it's been like 25, 30 years ago since I not 30, but I can't do math, but it's like, but we make this all the time, and it's like the easiest recipe. I feel like it's just dump, and dumping, like, I don't think you can go wrong at all.
Yeah, they're so good. Yeah, I had like 4 of them last night. Yeah, you just put a bunch of things, and you weren't kidding. I put them in my large bowl, and then as I kept adding ingredients, I was like, oh no, I need a really large bowl. So I had to switch it out, get the bigger bowl. And they're so good. What other flavors have you made before?
The butter mochi, I think I probably just made the coconut one, It's,
okay. Yeah.
I'm having other variations. I'm really funny sometimes. Like, if I like something, like, I don't know, some people, like, I'm this person, if I go to a restaurant, if I love something at the restaurant, I will always order that one thing, even though I know there's other good things, because I think, oh, but then I'll want to have that,
Yeah.
I will venture outside, but I just love butter mochi so much. And I love the sweetened coconut on top too. I love the bouncy texture. Oh, I've made a chocolate version before.
Oh, okay. Yum.
The original is my favorite.
Yeah, and I really love the edges. That were my favorite part.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, very buttery, very delicious. Well, thank you so much, Vita, for taking your time and meeting with me. And it's so good to see your beautiful face. Like, I haven't seen you in so long. I think maybe 2017 was the last time we were in the same room together. I don't know. Thank you for sharing all the beautiful recipes. And thank you for this love letter to musicals and to your love of food and the food that you've picked up along your trails and all your world travels. And what's next for Vita?
Yeah, well, I mentioned I have this middle grade at the end of the year. This 2025 is probably my biggest publishing year because technically this book comes out in January. You know, we've
Oh,
had
okay.
release, but the actual release date is January 7th. So it'll be
Okay.
out in January. I'm co-writing a series. It's the Team Awkward series with another author. It's about four girls. Their first day is sixth grade. They all have really embarrassing moments, and they end up finding a secret space, like it's a secret hidden locker room only they can see. So it becomes like their club of sorts.
Oh, that's fun.
Joy and I were writing the series together. Those two books come out this year, and then at the end, I also have a short story coming out too in another collection. But is the but you know, like publishing takes a long time. So some of these
Yeah.
projects have been in the works for a while. You know,
Yeah.
it just all happens to be like this coming up here. But I'm really excited for the middle grade. I talked about, you know, that's the Invincible List of Lonnie Lee. That one comes out in the fall, and that one is just there are some projects of your heart. This is one of mine, so
Oh,
I'm hoping it's, you know, people can see that too. So
that's really exciting. Well, what a big year for you then. It's wonderful. And I'm thrilled for you and the coming year that you're having. And thank you so much for coming. And this was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much, Vita.
thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Bye.